Hello and welcome. Here we are once more on Worldbuilding Wednesday. We will, of course, be building worlds. Let's see here. As soon as we make sure everything is set, we are, of course, slightly early. Not that there's some sort of schedule or anything, there basically isn't. Well, other than the days we usually do things, it's not like there's some designated time, just when we usually get about it. So, today, we'll be world building. We will be focusing more heavily on the world building, and ideally, somewhat limiting our rambling. As usual, I'm your host, Casimir Basilius. I suppose I should actually, show up, you know? Yeah. So, where were we? Yes, world building. We will be focusing heavily on the world building. Let's see. Let's just make sure everything is working. I messed a little bit with our settings. So, here we go. We will be, of course, working on the city to try and get a lot more done. I am not happy with our progress on the city, or our progress in general. So, we'll try and get some actual work done. We will be, as I said, focusing on the world building, but also on just a bit of rules work and all that, but mostly world building. So, I had a few ideas, which is, I suppose, one reason why we're here early. I was a bit excited to get to work on those ideas. So, first of all, I want to actually start, well, not only do I want to add to the map and to add little more notes and work paragraphs of law, little paragraphs of law, but also I had an idea of actually designating sections of the city, like we did before, but actually getting a little bit more into the stats of the organizations and all that. So, let's do so. Of course, there's a lot I want to work on, specifically Galactic Requiem wise in general. Of course, there's a lot I want to work on here for this, but in general, as I'm always saying, we have a lot of things to work on in general. So, without further ado, let's actually get to the world building. So, well, that would be shocking, wouldn't it? Not rambling for an hour to and half an hour before we actually get to it. Crazy. So, finding a place to begin is always the hard part. Let's quickly look at what we have so far. Let's pop this open here. Interact, world building scraps, minimize, and scroll. Of course, as this is World Building Wednesday, while we will do our best to limit rambling, of course this is going to be slow. We are world building after all, with stats and charts and paragraphs and all that, so of course this will be a bit slow, but hopefully it will be focused. So, organization has base stats of 5, org level 4. Stats of 5, org level 4. Let's see if that's even right, because I think we might need to boost that. So, of course, it's not going to be visible to you as I open the secondary file. If, sure. Give me half a second. When I say the other file, I'm basically, I suppose, it's not like I'm not allowed to display it or anything. I just don't have it set up to display is the problem. If you want to know what I'm looking at, it's basically, this is the section of the other file that I'm looking at. It's basically a chart that needs editing, but I'm looking at the chart of basically other stuff. So it should be listed as 5, shouldn't it? Not 4. That's weird. Specifically, we noted up here, org level 4. Oh, I suppose that would be its org approximate level. Okay, I was wondering because it was the 5th up. The first 3 I won. Was confusing me there for a second. Probably because I was so zoomed in. Let's see. So, 500. 500 pop? Yeah, seems about right. Could theoretically even be 1 larger. But it seems about right. As stated, it's just, I get thrown off a little bit by, anyway, I'll finish that statement in half a second. I get thrown off a little bit by the, stats, often, for organizations. They throw me off because I look at it and it's like, okay, so base stats of 5? That seems rather low. And just innately, my being used to working with stat blocks just sees it and goes, that's low. Something seems off when, like, the way it works statistically, even a 1 is a positive in an organization. What is a 1? I mean, I know it's a positive. What I mean is, like, now I'm thinking statistically, what's the modifier of a 1? -5. And your bonus is 6. So you have, we've probably done this math before. A 1 gives you a -5, your base is 6, meaning your total's a +1, meaning you have a slightly better than 50% chance by like 5%, so like a 55% success rate of getting a +2 modifier. So even a 1 is a flat-out bonus, even though you're getting a -5 due to the way organizations work. But I'm just so caught up in, going, that translates to negative. Something must be wrong here. I've statted it wrong, even though it's fine. Which often leads to me, on occasion, statting things just when I'm going about it and not going about the math. It's not like I check the math every time, even though I should. Sometimes I'll be like, okay, so it should be about this. And then I'll, overstat some things. I need to go back and fix some things that have been overstated on the organization scale because of that. Because, like I said, I'm used to, I'm used to seeing the numbers and going, okay, so it should be higher because the average is 10. The average is like, well, to be fair, the average is technically 10, not the statistical average, but like the baseline for a person is 10, sort of. In our galaxy, we don't go by that. We say the baseline is a stat at 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, and or some variance of that is the average we give people in stats, like the basic stat block. So, like, even then, the average is 10, but I'm used to, given the way we stat people, much higher numbers. And that additionally throws me off, Anyway, so 5 should be fine, because stats of 5 equate to -3, which equates to +3, by the way. And when I say 55% and +3 and all that, I mean, for +3, it's 65%, I believe, if my math is right, success rate. It's actually higher, assuming the organization has skills in whatever you're having them roll to assist with, because the skill is factored into that check. So it's usually even higher than that percent success rate. And the modifier is likely to go to like +3 or +4, depending on what actual, skills they have, whether you're dedicating a elite unit or important individual or influential leader to work on the thing, which they use their stats as the base modifier instead of +6, and they default at 6. By their base stats, I mean like you can have a character do it, in which case it uses the character stats. If you have a elite individual, etc., use it, they select certain stats that they have their bonuses in, and then that applies to it. So it's a bit more complex than that even then. So it's not just like when I say A1 equates to a 55%, if you have actual skill in it as the character or the person rolling, and the organization puts their organization skill into it, the assist check can be boosted above that, even if it's A1 in your actual stat. So that's to be taken into account. But, like you see my point. Even though it's a 1, one would think, oh, a 1 in a stat, that's absolutely terrible, but in organizations, it's not necessarily. I mean, it is also, in some cases, bad. It means your organization has little health. If you had a 1 in every stat, you'd have a bonus of 6 health for your organization from your stat modifiers. But also, when using certain crisp systems, it uses those for some things, which I suppose we need a better way to calculate that out, which needs some modification. Like I said, the game needs some modification in some places. It works, everything works. The game's fully playable, but it's more like, there's always tweaks that need doing and all that. Anyway, enough of that. Forgive me. 1 second. One thing I need to check. It's going to bug me unless I check it. I remember adding a rule. It's not like I can't find it. I just want to find it to absolutely make sure I did add it. It was a while back. It was like probably a few months back I added a rule to the nation file, and I just want to make sure that I noted it down while I remember it. Oh, wrong section. I can get confused between the sections because, like I said before, organizations and nations use, in this section, use very similar rules, like almost exactly this, not exactly the same, there are differences. It's its own thing. I'm not going to bore you by explaining the intricacies of the two parts of the nation system while compared to the one part of the organization system, and how the second part of the nation system is very, very, very similar to the... You get my point. We're not going to go into detail. That's the brief description, by the way. It gets more complex than that. It's not like it's hard to run. It's hard to explain, Here's what I'm looking for. Assist units. Okay, good, good, good. I did note it down. Okay. So now let's get to actual work. Once more, we are stuck with the big question of where to actually begin. And by that, I mean like, which section of world building do we begin on? I suppose we'll work a bit on this organization. There's no reason not to. King Northern sector controls part of the industrial district as territory. Do we have quick nation charts or quick organization charts. Do we have those? I know that we have quick nation charts because, well, I specifically made sure that I had the ability to quickly throw down nation blocks for something else I was doing. I forget whether I made quick organization ones. That we're going to quickly check. It's actually very easy to check. There's probably just a note on the nation section that says use for organizations, probably. Because, like I said, they're so similar that it's not interchangeable, but it's so close that it might as well be. Like I said, the rules work slightly differently because there's, I suppose we'll explain loosely. Nations have two parts. Organizations have one part. Well, if you want to be technical, two parts, but the three for nations then, if you want to be very technical. But here's the thing I was telling you about explaining things. It gets complex. Explaining, while in practice, it's simple. Your nation has two main sections it works on. A nation has its resource tree, not really a tree. It has its resources, its ministries, its buildings, its nation chart. I wish. Is this one acceptable? Might as well. There's nothing classified on this. Probably. Probably. Nothing exceptionally classified. Yeah, well, yeah. It's clean enough. I also can't really get a good view of it, so we'll do the best we can. By a clear view, I mean file, new. Unfortunately, I can't really bring up the file easily, but I can take a picture of the file. Here's a blank one. This one might not even be up to date, but when I say there's two halves to the nation running, some people might not find nation running enjoyable for a very specific reason. And that is, oh, I was trying to hit that, thank you. And that's because nation running in Galactic Requiem is what we call, well, half a second, I'm trying to make it work. Please don't crash like last time, I beg of you. Huh, that's weird. It's exceptionally weird. Okay, it works. Very good. When I say nation running is a bit hard to explain, it's not like it's exceptionally difficult, but yeah, we got it to work. Here's a part. This isn't even the entire thing. This is a part of the nation running spreadsheet. So it's a blank one, of course, but my point is when I say it's not for everyone, I mean this is half of it. Not even half of the file, like half of nation running. Let's see whether we can't get a little bit of an explanation here. Of course, we have our resources, our income, our population, how many individuals it takes to mine any given good, upkeep tracking, build sites and build slots. And then there's ones below this that are for sectors, subset, like this is planetary. Well, yeah, this is technically a planetary sheet. Then there's there's system, subsector, sector. And then you pool it, and you don't need one of these for every. You can vagary it to a degree. So it's just a bit vague at higher degrees. You have your factions within your government. You have your actual government type, your ministries, your policies, your buildings here, your policies, your other thing that starts with a P, projects, your individual factions, economic breakdown. Luckily, the sheet that we use auto-calculates a lot of it. Although I think our calculation might be out of date, so we might need to upgrade that. Private sector asset breakdown, your military breakdown of fleets and so forth, loyalty calculation, and then this little section here is your nation stats, which is what is similar to your organization stats and works under that whole system, which basically, like, it looks like a little stat block, but you have to understand there's skills and everything that breaks down into organization rules that basically are like, how many units do you have in your organization, influential leaders, that kind of thing, where are they on mission, and then you can nationwide send out diplomats, and then it gets a bit complex in how it all works, but it's actually like simple. It sounds, see, that's the weird thing. That's the weird thing. Trying to explain it, it's like, oh, hey, here's all these intertwined systems. There's this and this and this, and this affects this, and there's an audio calculator on the sheet, and then you have all these options, and it sounds, sure, it sounds like I'm like, look at all this stuff, but it's simple. Trust me, it's simple. I'm not insane, it's simple. It really is. Like, I say all this stuff, but in the end, I have to remove this now. There we go. In the end, it really just goes down to, okay, let's go to the actions section. You know, like it breaks down to a literal chart. I say chart, it's not like it's a flow chart. I'll read it to you. It's real simple. It's literally, do you want to buy or sell resources? Yes, no. Do you want to send a diplomat anywhere? This will cost a credit unit if you do. Do you want to make trade goods? Do you want to take out a loan? Do you want to raise taxes or production? Do you want to sell your trade goods? Choose projects you want to enact. Where do you want to send your workers? You want to gather resources? What do you want them to do? Do you want to make a supply line? Do you want to hire a mercenary army? Let's do loyalty maintenance. This only happens once an in-game month, so once every 4 turns. Did you wish to recruit soldiers? We need to upkeep your pop once a month, so once every 4 turns. Do you wish to try and recruit pop? Did you wish to try and recruit government? Let's manage your military. Check your supplies. Do you want to send your forces anywhere? What do you want your forces to do? Let's allocate utilities. Basically, the utilities that are for your people to use are subtracted. Luckily, that's tracked by our chart, so, you know, it auto-calculates, this is how many utilities, just minus them from the number. Random events rolled once a month. Did you wish to move population? Turn counter goes up. In between turn nation actions. That's the first layer of nation stuff. Once you know what you're doing, like by players who don't even, like, for my players who don't even, like, focus nations, who play normal characters, normal players who just focus combat and that kind of thing, have fun with nations, because it sounds like a lot, but you go through the turn, like, if you actually play 2 turns of a nation, or even just 4 turns of a nation, you just kind of get it. You know what I mean? Like, it's a flowchart. So once you do it, like, 4 times, you know, oh yeah, I'm not gonna hire a mercenary army, so just no on that step. Do I want to build anything? Yeah, I need a new factory so we can increase our production on this planet. I'm gonna build a city on that one. Like, it gets simple. After you do it for 4 turns, you can basically pick up the way it works, the system. Ideally, you know, it might take 8 turns, so you know fully how it works, because certain events only happen once a month, and a month is every 4 turns. So, it might take 8 turns to understand the population upkeep and loyalty upkeep and random events, But, like, the base turns, it's like, you get it after doing it 4 times. It's like, yeah, I know how this works. I know what I need to do to make things happen. We skipped one step, by the way. Not really a step, but I kind of stopped after turn counter goes up in between turn actions. That is policies, laws, other, basically the way you would run an organization. Character actions. What does your character want to do? Did you wish to send any specialists to any locations? Did you wish to do any small scale? Resolve events? Because, events occur. What events do you wish to resolve? Do you wish to send in forces to crack down on this? It's sort of like character stuff. It's sort of nation scale character stuff, So, like, it's really not all that complex. Do you need to send in the riot forces? That happens at that part of the thing. Every end of every week, do you send in the riot forces? What are you doing? Are you increasing this policy? Are you talking with your ministers? It's really simple. And then that is affected by the nation type charts. While for nations, by the way, we'll just go over nations, not nations, organizations, because the organization chain literally just is basically the other half of the nation chain. Like I said, they're the same. Nations go into the organization chart, which is major actions. You get 2 major actions plus 1 major action per 2 available influential leaders that spend their full turn adding major action, meaning you can have a maximum of 4 major actions a week. These actions are anything really, but the simplest actions are achieve objective, use or take around in the objective-based CRISP system to try and take an action. Sort of like, you wish to try and attack a nation diplomatically? Do you wish to send diplomats there? Do you wish to engage in intrigue? Enact an organization skill check. I want my organization to try and achieve this goal with a skill check. We're going to search for this thing. So, like, make a skill check for that. It's stuff like that. Units can make a profession check to gain money. Units can be assigned to assist the organization to give their bonus to the assist. Units can act on the character action phase. Like, if there's things going on, your unit can act on the character action phase. At the end of every week, a org gets NPC Organizations Act. At the end of every month, an organization rolls on the nation random event chart. And it's literally that. 4 major actions, and then each unit can take individual unit actions. So it's really not all that complex in, like, the way it works, Like, wow, you get actions that you take. The complexity comes in the fact, like I say, we simulate a world. So if you're wondering, how does something as simple as take action equate to working on that kind of scale? Because the actions you can take are infinite. Well, not infinite, but, like, practically. okay, you have a unit. What unit action can they take? Because the section just says, take a unit action. So what actions can a unit take? Okay, what can a person do? That's the answer. What can a person do? That's what a unit can do. Well, a unit in organizations, 50 people. But it's like, okay, you can run a media campaign. Of course, you might have to spend money or resources. You can run a media campaign, slander your opponent to try and degrade their stats, or make deals with them, send your people out to talk with them, make diplomacy checks, make deals, maybe engage in a fight. Literally endless things. Unit action is take a character action as a unit, like infinite possibility. And we can translate that into organization scale things because we have a little translator that is basically like you can engage in crisp-based combat. Crisp-based combat isn't necessarily combat. You can use crisp-based combat to create objects, create works of art, anything. It can be used for anything. And we can easily translate it using the system into cost. We can translate it into earning, how much you earn, or damage to an organization, how much you can cost them, not only physical damage, but like media. So this will cost them this much if they wish to maintain their media presence. Otherwise, it will degrade their media presence, meaning they'll take penalties equal to, say, -1 or -2 in their next future media check. Like you can do infinite things with it. So, sort of like that. And we can, basically using the system, figure out what those bonuses or penalties are going to be. So it's like a framework. It's more a framework for whatever you want to do, which is how we can simulate a world with it. Like, oh, you want to do this? Well, it's easy because we have all these framework for how to apply modifiers and penalties using all this. Anyway, that's somewhat of a tangent, but I feel it's relatively important because we're going to be working on this right now. So, I was looking for if I had down the specifics for organizations, not nations. Yeah, it's literally just listed as smaller places use organization stat blocks. Although I really should make some, I mean, that is the general, but that does need work. 1 second, I'm gonna make a personal note. Personal note, here we are. Make organization NPC templates for quick use. So by that, I mean like, so they are similar, but as I said, there are differences. For instance, most organizations are usually smaller scale. We don't really have a simple way set up to track the stats, like the actual skill ranks and like number of workers and all that, like we do for a major a nation. We don't have that set up for organizations, which I need to set up. Okay, so we'll have to do it by hand. It's not going to be too difficult. They're level 5. Well, stats of 5, level 4. Stats of 5. Pop over to here. Look at that chart that we showed before. About 500 or so people, give or take. Could have more, could have less, but we'll go with about that. 10 million credits. 10 million credits, unless we already listed an amount. Let me quickly read through. Okay. Not exclamation point. Approximately 500 people. Maybe more. We'll figure that out. So we know what they have that wise, meaning we know that they're org 5 in stats. Quick bit of math. Is it times 4 or times 5? That's the one thing I want to check. Because I forget how many skills we modify that by. Four times their int. I say int, it's information. It's different, technically. So 20. So they will have 20 skill. 20 skill? Might as well actually fill that out. Why not? Copy from there. Paste. They have 20. They work on chemicals. Chemistry. Let's see. 5 is going to be a -3. So let's just negate that. 1, 2, 3. What else do they want? 6. 9. 12. 15. 18. I think we'll remove fabrication. Probably. Yeah. 2 in tactics. Um, what are they good at? 3 in manipulate. There. No. We'll just have it as impress, and we'll put the 3 in pharmacology. Not only do they work with chemicals, they also try dabbling in drugs, so. Perfect. That will do. That's their organization specialties. Of course, they do default at 6. So it's not like having 0's bad, because that means they'll just be rolling with a +3. Okay. What else do we need to know? Not too much more. I mean, we could separate the amount of people they have into actual worker units and elite units and all that. But I think this is theoretically good enough. I mean, at least know what they are rolling on and what bonuses they're rolling. If we wanted to get fancy, we could specify what equipment they have, which also affects rolls and all that. We could specify how that 10 million is spent. We could go over or under that. That's just a suggestion for the most part. And we could do a lot, Like, we could go into full sheet. We're not going to, though. Just for completeness, I might as well show. I think we already have one. I think the one we have, though, is out of date. Yeah, we added a bit more to it. But here, if we zoom out a bit, you can see a organization sheet with the stats. We are missing a lot because we didn't finish really building them. But, you know, organization feeds, what properties they have, what assets. We didn't really finish equipment. We didn't really assign their workers, elite units, important individuals, what stats each one has, which we didn't really assign. Workers don't really have stats unless you specialize them, but you can, but it's not really recommended. Expenses, gains, economic totals. There was a bit more because we edited the way it works, but, you know, needs some update, but, you know, like that's sort of what it's like. Which we did make our faction a bit too big for being 100 people. Stats are a bit ridiculous for an organization. Once more, that comes into me being used to standard 10, you know, like 14, not 14, 12, 12, 10, 6, 1, 8, because I'm used to like 10 being average when it probably should be lower. But we'll leave it. We'll say they've stockpiled resources, probably because the government that they work for has been just funding them despite being a small organization. Besides, we need some sort of benefit. I mean, it's not like we actually control them. They just work with us, so unfortunately we have to, I say unfortunately, we have to make requests from them and all that. And there's a chance of failure and all of that. Organizations have ranks, and if you're not the leader, you have to make checks to see whether you can get things done with them, and it is affected by your rank with the organization and the entire social aspect. Speaking of, do we actually have that listed? Not the social aspect rules-wise, of course we have it listed in the rule book. I mean, do we have any listed on our personal sheet? That would be over here. We don't have any fame. We don't have any influence. But our social status should be 10. Let me double check that. Real fast. Let's just pop over to the social book. Not gambling. Here we are. Influence. Here we are. Yeah, standard galactic citizen, social tier 10. How do we list that? Because I know I've updated the listing file. Not file, but like method. For official storage purposes. Okay, so it goes at the very end. Copy from there. Go over to here. So, over here, you should have that. One thing I want to check. Social status. What do we list that as? I forget exactly how we're supposed to list that, like, you know, officially. Ah, okay. So that's the modifier. So that's going to be 0. Our social status is technically 0, as you can see by that. Social status, of course, goes all the way to 10. Technically to like 11, if you want to be technical. Because the maximum is 32. 32 32 base stat, modifier being 11. And that it's not a stat you increase really normally. Social is well, literally your social status. It's not really important. It's like 99% of the time not important unless you're playing a nobility campaign, you know? Like, it's not important. It's not like it prevents you from doing anything or really applies a modifier unless, you know, you're literally wandering around a noble court going, yes, I believe that we should increase the taxes on the peasantry, don't you agree? You know, like, unless you're really dealing with other nobles in a situation that you're at. If you're at an imperial party, one of those imperial parties that I'm always attending, unless you're at one of those, nobody cares about your social status, you know? But, you know, for just for the record, I personally have, I believe, social status 26 or 27. I believe 27. It is exponentially harder to get social status as you go higher and higher. For instance, for the record, 24 social is a planetary ruler. 26 social is a system ruler. 28 social is a subsector ruler. I don't rule a subsector, but I have more than a system. So my social status is about 27 because I'm better than a system ruler, less than a subsector ruler, and it gets, like I said, exponentially harder. From subsector ruler, it goes to sector ruler at 30. So 28 is subsector, 29 is multiple subsectors. It's not like a little bit, a number more, and then, you know, 32 being a major nation leader. And of course, there's a bit more to it than that. Like, once you get there, you actually have like differences in status, which do matter. That's just your base. Then you have differences in status, wealth, that kind of thing. So while you can be the same social status as somebody, it doesn't mean you're the same, you know, like socially and all that. But like I said, it doesn't really matter in normal gameplay. It's not like it's literally never used by the majority of citizens in the galaxy. You can run an entire mercenary organization of like a little flotilla with hundreds of thousands of soldiers, and social status won't come into play. You can run you can run that and social status doesn't come into play. It's not something that usually matters. Hell, it only even specifically matters with nations that care, you know? Like, it matters in the Empire for lords. It doesn't matter in the Empire for the classes of citizens. Classes of citizens in the Empire, as we've said, go from like 1 to 5, well, 5 to 1. But it doesn't matter for them. Like, social status, we treat them equally for the most part. It's not like social status even matters for them. Until you get to like class 1. There are some class 1 citizens that try and partake in, you know, like, noble stuff. You don't really see citizenry trying to partake in imperial noble statuses and all that unless they get to class 1. So, like, you don't, it doesn't really matter, but even then, some class 1 citizens are like, yes, I want to have status and all that. Well, the average citizen is like class 3 or something, so it's like, doesn't really matter. And, you know what class 1 citizens hate? The fact that the imperial military, government structure-wise, imperial government, even structure-wise, not only the military, just the government, structure-wise, is technically classified, not classified, but, like ranked as a higher status than even class 1 citizens. So, like you can be congratulations, you've been conscripted into the imperial government. You are factory worker. You are official government factory worker. That is where you have been placed in your conscription. Congratulations, you are technically part of the imperial government. You technically are higher rated than a class 1 citizen while you're working for the imperial government as a factory worker. So, once your conscription ends, your status drops back down, like, because you're still your citizen class, but, because if you're not working for the government, you're technically not classified as you're taxed, yeah, but you're not directly, in our eyes, benefiting the government. If you want to, sell your assets as a class 1 citizen, and yeah, which, yeah, sounds a little bit, maybe, like communism, selling your assets to the government. But I assure you, it's not. Definitely. Totally. In the Imperial Civil War, there are the corrupts and the communists, and we are not the Imperial Communist Party. We're the, well, baseline Imperials. We're loyal to the leader of the Empire and all that. And of course, we have lords and classes of citizens. That's not very equal, is it? So, the Imperial Communist Party doesn't. And then, it's strange, when one says the Imperial Communist Party, because they're not imperial anymore, but our faction is the Grand Dimensional Empire. So, it's the name of the faction. And they're a subsect of traitors to our faction, but they're still part of the faction. Of course, their outlook is the removal of citizen classes, of lords, and all that, and of use of our advanced technologies to bring about, well, equality and abundance and all that. We have nanites and automated production and all that. Like, I refuse to state that the Empire can pull it off because I don't want to be seen as a traitor. I am simply a lowly lord who is loyal to Aline Merritt, the lord that I'm a vassal to, who is a imperial loyalist and not one of the many, well, two. There's also the renegades who are, like just standard traitors. Look, the Empire has a long history. But in recent days, there's like 4 factions in the Empire. There's us, who follow the leader of the Empire. There's the corrupts, who follow an eldritch entity. There's the communists, who abolish the whole lord stuff and citizen classes. And then there's just the plain imperial traders who go about their own business and don't necessarily. I mean, they come in many different flavors. They're like the smallest subsect of factions because they just do what they want. But, like they go against imperial law. But we don't worry about them. I'm sure if this is being broadcast within the Grand Dimensional Empire, everything over the past few minutes has just been bleeped out. I'm telling you, they're going to assign a political commissar to me. And they're going to make sure I don't say any traitorous comments. Here we are. Oh, if you didn't know, I suppose this is. We can state it like this. This is the best way to state it. Doing our best to not break any walls that are the fourth one. Here we are. So, like, if you want to understand culturally the Empire, we are best equated to your Elysian 1920s Tsarist Russia, politically speaking. Like, we have commissars, but a nobility. They did have those. I mean, what's his name? Sort of, like, we're structurally, militarily, well, other than the fact that we only have a fleet and an army, like, culturally, very much the Empire. Well, we have various different factions, like, societarily, it's very 1800s, early 1900s nobility and so forth. Which is why we have, political commissars and unrelated, absolutely unrelated to that. It's actually a recent development, the Imperial Communist Party, which is totally unrelated, I assure you. That's actually because of law events involving a wrong story. Treason, the whole thing. But yes, imperial society is very 1800s, 1900s, old-timey nobility. Hell, our entire tactic. I mean, I say, what is it, conscript a lot. Conscripts aren't poorly equipped; they're actually well equipped. But still, like, our strategy is vast numbers of conscripts, well equipped conscripts, but vast numbers. We are, the faction that has the most territory, after all. But, much like 1800s and 1900s nobility, we fight amongst ourselves and achieve very little. The amount of successes against the central nations, not the World War I central nations, of course. It's honestly, we didn't design any of this with parallels in mind. We did not design any of this with parallels in mind. The central nations are just called the central nations because they're in the central. They're in the. I can show you. I'll show you. so much easier. The Central Nations are called the Central Nations because they're literally in the center. We call this the North. This is the South. If this is the North and this is the South, this is the center. So, you know, the, the Central Nations, or civilized space, if you want to be somewhat spicy. Apparently, it's considered in bad taste to call this area civilized space, you know, like, yeah, there's civilizations elsewhere. But, you know, we for the longest time have called this civilized space because there's not really routes. The reason being that it's been called civilized space for the longest time is because, yes, there's other nations out beyond, and some of them are big, but there's no route there from here that is known. Lots of those nations were lost in the early era of FTL and were founded in the pre-FTL era. So, you know, millions of years ago to up to 7,000 or so years ago. So there's not really FTL routes that lead out there, and like it's hard to get out there. So for the longest time, just this section has been, and you know, up here and so forth, has been easily accessible. There's not really access to major nations further out. I mean, unless you go out alone, but like, it's not like there's trade with them. There's not really interaction with them, hence leading to this area being civilized space and everything else being somewhat less colonized around it and hard to get through. So civilized space, but also the central nations, which is why we have the ACN, the Allied Central Nations, which are the ones against the system's authority, and so forth. But you get my point, like, I mean, theoretically you can draw parallels between anything, you know? But more directly, the Empire is culturally very much old-timey 1800, early 1900 nobility-esque in style. I mean, if you couldn't tell from my uniform and constant talk of nobility and titles, and my title of lord, and the fact that I'm a vassal, which I suppose is more medieval than 1800s or 1900s, but the Empire runs on a very vassal-based system. How much do we pay? 1 second, I'm concerned. So, I know that the average tax for a for a nation, the average tax any normal nation pays its greater nation is 10%. I forget what the empire pays. I think it might be 20%. And I just want to make sure, because I want to make sure that I'm getting my assets correct. Imperial equipment. I suppose we can go like this. No, we pay 1/10. Okay, good. Imperial vassals pay a total of 1/10 their calculated national value as either currency or accepted goods, or the worth of forces to be levied to their lord. We may also send it as stated forces, which is what we usually tend to do. We'll just be like, yeah, send military forces for the war effort. Speaking of, if you want to know, not even this entire territory, but right over here somewhere is my 3 worlds, 3 systems. Anyway, we've gone off on another tangent. So basically, let's bring back up our sheet. We could make a whole thing, but we're not going to. So yeah, social status, that's why we got off topic. Of course, there's different holdings and there's an entire social system, but like I said, it's usually not important unless you're in a medieval world or dealing with higher level space stuff. That involves such things. 1 second, I need to grab something. I will be right back. Hello. I return. Sorry about that. Let's see. So, um, let's go back over there. Actual world building, let's see. So, we know... Huh. Oh, okay, yeah, this is the right section. We have some stats we can work with for them. That's technically good enough. Technically. Like, it's enough to use them as a faction. Of course, we can always add more as we go to, like, units and all that. So this is the central district. How much larger do we want the central district to be? Well, we know it's large. We know it's very large. Let's go here. So that's what we know from here. We have this. We got to get rid of those on the other map. So let's actually finally do that. Okay. We're gonna have to do this annoying way. Yep. Here's what we'll do. We'll go over to the background. I made edits and didn't do it right. So we'll copy the background from here. Go to here. Make a copy of the background. And then decide so we know what is above and below. These need to go. All that needs to go too, technically speaking. This is fine, technically. That stuff goes. These stay because these will have underground parts. These I want to have underground parts too, but different. So we're going to slightly edit those. How do you want to do that? Let's make them single blocks. Why not? So above ground, there are multiple buildings. If you go below ground, that one's... I wanted this. There we are. That's fun. Underground, that's a single block. This one's just rearranged. Like so, why not? This one is rearranged. It's good enough. Okay, that will be underground. That will run underground too. Those are large buildings, so they will be underground. The shopping section here, that stays. These can stay, I guess. And everything industrial over here remains with underground sections. This won't, and this won't, though. Assuming those aren't... Yeah, okay, good. So those we remove. And we're going to have to make those something else. Sure. Copy that. No, let's have this weird one. Why not? If you head into the park, there's this really weird large building. I kind of want to keep this shopping, and I kind of don't want to rearrange them, just because I'm feeling a little lazy in that regard, but there's not really many ways to rearrange them, you know? Like, what am I supposed to do? That? Sure. Um, hmm. Those blank on the surface. Interesting. Oh, not ideal. This can't be. This cannot be. So underground will make it smaller, because we do need the train tracks to run through here. So this is going to be gotten rid of. This should remain, but not everything else there. Perfect. There we are. So now our train can run right through the area, and we'll even make another train depot. There we are. Okay, so this will be a train depot for that. We'll grab one of these. For car parking, we'll go over here. We'll grab some of the needed parts, see what we can do. Suppose this is only a lower train station. It's just not a version on the top. Suppose you could go in through the building and then down. That'd be neat. Yeah, that's fine. So theoretically, it's just in the building. That can go there. Building covers the whole thing, right? Only the southern part, not the top left. Okay? You just need to keep that in mind. Not up here. How much of the top left, though? Here's what we'll do. Copy, paste, transparent, and then we'll just... Okay. So, like, it's not like we can't put things here. We just need to remember things put there don't have an above ground section, basically. That's all we need to remember about that, really. You know, unless we go like this, copy, and we go over here. We just kind of make a stairway up. There we are. Very nice. So that basically just leads to an underground train depot. We'll even make notes. Object layer. Wait, let's grab blank one. There we are. Over to here. Underground train and transit station. Copy that. Go over to our other variant. There we are. Now let's go back. Make sure this is the right layer. Good. Yes, perfect. So now we have, let's put a second one just so we know that it's this entire thing. In fact, both corners. Why not? Underground train and transit station. Could use some stuff there and in those. But we've done some good work. Gotten things a bit more set up in the section, a bit cleared. I mean, I've been talking about having to edit those for a while, and now we finally did a bit of editing in this section. That's good. I mean, we're not done here, both with the stream and with this area. But it's good to make progress. So there's that gang over there. One second. Now I'm curious. What is the largest? I know that the largest an organization can be is like 100, no, 1,000,000? Let's do the math. 100? Nope, 10,000 times 100. 1,000,000. Yeah, the largest a nation, an organization can be is 1,000,000, technically speaking. Now, there's subsidiaries that make that larger. You can technically have like a lot of subsidiaries. I'd have to bring up the sheet. I have to get accurate information. Here we are. A nation can have no more than 10 subsidiaries. A subsidiary can have no more than 5 of its own subsidiaries. A second-tier subsidiary can have 2, and a third-tier subsidiary may not have additional subsidiaries. Meaning that you can have 10 times 5 times 2 for a total of 100 subsidiaries. Each subsidiary can technically have 1,000,000 people for a total of like 100 million and 101 million or something like that. So, you know, like, it's not like it's bad. So, technically, if you want me to be technical, you can even have more than that. It's just, if you have more than that, they are considered, so subsidiaries are considered independent, but with you have better control over them. You can give them orders with a bonus on your giving them orders check. Technically, you can have allied organizations that work with you to surpass that number, but they are fully independent. You don't get a bonus against them, and technically somebody else can just take control of them and make them do what somebody else wants. When I say somebody else take control, I mean like, board members and stocks and, like they can have their own goals and stuff that might not align with yours. It's not like some random person can walk over and be like, this is mine now. It's, a bit more complex than that. But they count as allies, not subsidiaries, and so some control is lost. You have less control over subsidiaries and even less control over allied. But at that point, if you have 100 million and you want to go larger, just go nation scale. Because at that point, you might as well, you basically count as, if you have 100 million workers, you are a nation. You're a nation. So you might as well, you just skip over to the nation scale. There's some loss to skipping over to the nation scale, but some benefit to skipping over to the nation scale. For instance, nations have like 1,000 subsidiary organizations within them. They technically make less money, but they have more power. They make like not a insignificantly less amount of money, but they can scale infinitely larger. So, like you're less efficient, but you can scale larger, and you have certain powers that that you just don't get as an organization. For instance, on an organization scale, a nation's stats are just times 100. So and nations start at 10. They don't start at 1 in each stat, they start at 10. So you automatically just have 100 in each stat because times, because you multiply by, I believe, like 10 or 100 or something like that. I'd have to double check. But you also gain 500 people per unit instead of 50. And you can form armies and like, there's all sorts of benefits to being a nation as opposed to being an organization. It's not like it's ideal for every organization, But like if you want to scale more than 100 million and don't want to have to deal with allies that may or may not listen to you, you go nation. That's the way it works. For instance, Omnicorp, the largest corporation, is a nation, not an organization, rules-wise. Although it contains organizations within it. And those organizations have subsidiaries, etc., etc. Anyway, I'll be right back. My apologies, I return. So, where were we? Something about organizations. Ah, yes. Basically, in short, there's benefits and drawbacks to being a nation and being an organization. Let's check. Because now I'm curious. Ah, yes. A nation consists of 1,000 organizations, approximately, as opposed to 100. However, they can't really just use them to make money, for the most part, at least as far as I understand it. Let's check. Math time. Times 16? Times 100? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they can't use them to make money. Hmm. Like I said, we're always working on the rules. Always. Um, let's see. So, we have a better layout of the northern area. We have some more information on the gang that works out of that area. We also need what? We have all. I suppose we really should restat ours. But that does throw into conflict one thing. Ah, because we divide that by 10, right? No, we divide it by 100? Hmm. Hmm. That doesn't make sense. I really need to figure out a calculation um for our chart, the one that I showed way back, not the nation chart, the list of worth of organizations and stats and all that. It's not ideal because it doesn't tell me how many rough workers each thing is. If you saw it, it was like certain number of pop and then city or town and so forth, not the amount in the organization. It's if I want to ever equate it to a town, because I mean, a town's not working together. The value of a town isn't working together, so the pop scale is a bit larger. Well, a gang works together more than a town. So now I'm wondering, is 500 pop town equivalent to 500 pop gang? These are questions. I mean, it's also equivalent to a small local police force because they're more unified, but needs clarification. See, that's my point. It's not that the rules need changing. It's that sometimes we come to a point in which clarification of exactly what something means is needed, you know? Hmm. So, suppose we should shrink our organization, as painful as it is? Oh, assuming I open the right thing, you know? If we have 100 people, how big should our organization be? That's the good question. Ah, that's... I do have a way to calculate if you want to be technical. We have a value chart, a little chart with value. And so we can ask ourselves, how much is this gang worth? Like, not how much money do they have, how much do they have in total asset? You know, how much have they invested into each stat? And if we look at that, we realize that our numbers are far too high. Far too high. Because a 12, by the way, a 12 equates to... Oh, yeah, these numbers are significantly too high. Luckily, we haven't used it yet, so... A 12 equates to 37,500,000 sunk into it. Into that one stat, not the organization. 37 million, 37 million, and then 10, which is less, but okay, so let's do some recalculation. It's going to be annoying, but at most, they will have dedicated 3,600,000 into something. So our highest stat's going to be an 8. So we'll change these to 8s. They do have government funding behind them. So resources is 10. So those should drop to 6. Which is minus what? 6 is minus 2. This drops to 4, which is minus 3. 1 remains the same because you can't go lower than 1, by the way. 6 drops to 2. Well, we don't have to lower it. We'll leave it at 6. We'll spend a bit of extra money, leave it at 6. But if that's the case, no, we'll leave influence at 4, have that at 6. Yeah, that'll do. Gives us far more reasonable numbers. Unfortunately, we have to do some math. Well, no, that doesn't change because we left that at 6, because 6 times 4 is 24. So that's fine. Other things do, however, change. Added stats goes down. So, math time. Quick math. Here we go. 6 plus 4 plus 8 plus 1 plus 8 plus 6. 33. Is that even right? Let's double check. Here we go. 6 plus 4 plus 8 plus 1 plus 8 plus 6. 33. Good. 33. 1 pop for 1 health equals 34 health. Current max, 34. Okay, so the health is lower. Most things are the same. It just will have more accurate rolls. We'll say that they're well funded. I mean, yeah, we are exceptionally well funded. This gang is absolutely funded by the government from our previous things, not the local government, the foreign government that's pouring money in there. So our stats are a bit high, but they're not exceptionally high anymore, which I feel better about. Nothing else really needs to change. So, good. So, basically, that's saying while the other organization, the one up north, has like 5 times as many people as us, that does increase their health by like 5. But They have 5 times as many people as us, but they don't have as much ability to move and gather their forces fast. They don't have as many resources. They technically have more influence than us. We're the same on occult. And we have technically more information than them because we're being funded by the government. Force, because we're being funded by the government. Our arms and equipment are likely better. Resources, same. We can probably gather more people with our money. Response, because we have the ability to do so, you know? Okay, that's far better. Speaking of, what is the local... Let's do some writing. Here we are, writing time. While the gang-controlled area is mostly not under... No. Let's try again. The gang-controlled area, while settlement controlled by police forces, has a low-funded series of stations in the territory. They operate in a very limited area around their stations. Ensure that all support is needed. They have the capability of calling a paramilitary... words are hard. Paramilitary merc. The funds for that are, however, limited. Most policing and law enforcement falls to the local gangs of the territory that often charge the locals for their services. Yes. Not always, but often. Okay. The merc contractors usually arrive via dropship and descend to the city as needed. They do have on occasion deploy APCs. Remote Contracting Org has standard combat armor as their base armor set. They are not known to use non-lethal tactics. They act more as emergency SWAT than as a supplementary police unit. Gangland forces can, not often, but we won't put any modifier because it's half-half. Okay. The gang law enforcers can be seen outside some high-end ported establishments that pay for their presence. The gang law enforcers are from a variety of gangs and not unified outside their select gangs. The enforcers operate within the specific territory of their gangs. And are known to attack individuals from other gangs. Different communities often fall under control of different gangs. There we are. So, like there we have, these aren't really descriptive paragraphs, but they are like loosely paragraphs that give us some idea for working with these things. So there's descriptive paragraphs, which are just fun, like little bits of text that give us information, but are also like descriptions in game. These are more like, remember these facts. These are just little facts for running the thing, you know? These aren't our usual like in-game lore paragraphs for the things. This is just data for us to remember when running these things. Okay. That's one thing I really wanted to hit on when we started this. I really wanted to get some of these details down, which we did. Despite a lot of rambling at some points, at least the rambling felt more on target, but we have hit a lot more important things that I've wanted to get done this time. Which I am happy about. Let's see. What else can we do? Um, hmm. We have some more idea about this stuff. We have worked on that a little bit. This needs a little bit more. Everything needs work, but you know, we have our plot, sort of. We'll see where the bot takes us when it's time on Friday, of course. Over here we have our train line. What's this northern train line? Oh, I'm dumb. The northern train line's that one. But this one can't go through here, so here's what we'll do. We're gonna have a station here, by the way. See whether we can't fit one in. And basically, move this south a bit. At least till it's... Here's what we'll do. I sort of want this to be like so. So we'll go like that. I think 3. 3's too many, but it's fine. Perfect, that will do. In fact, I know that these are supposed to connect over here, so let's quickly take these. Go like that. Over here, I sort of want it to split. Like so. And of course, we need to finish the top bit. That should be good. There. Nope, one more. Or 2, 3 more. There we are. So that will be our base train line for this area. And like that, that will do. Although admittedly, the plus might be from that. But I still think it's nice to have it sort of cut off there. Because, like, that's a lot of blocks, so over here we have it sort of cut off like that. That's nice. Okay. What else? That I'm not sure about. I mean, like, we have so much to do, but sometimes you have so much to do that you don't know exactly what to do. Well, I suppose... I suppose we'll call it there. Yeah, we'll call it there this time. Next time, Solo Sunday, we won't ramble and we'll play the game. I suppose we could do a little bit of rambling right now. We have like, what, 4 minutes before the 2-hour mark. So, nations. I mean, I know I talk about nations a lot, but that's just because I'm working on. I mean, if we were working on feat trees and all that, I'd be talking about skills and feats, and we talked about sharpshooter last time. I suppose we also talked a little bit about influence and all that this time. There's lots of options. And as I always say, you can do all sorts of stuff in Galactic Requiem. All sorts. What is that? Those are roads, aren't they? Sorry, just looking at the thing. Yeah, those are roads. Lots of options. I'm not sure where we'll take the campaign. Usually probably where the bot takes us or where we want to go. But after that, I'm thinking about either figuring out where we go after that. I just sort of want to kind of explore the city. But do we want another character? Or do we want to spice things up with something different? Do we want to run a nation? Do we want to run an organization? Do you want to run a small business? Or a large business, a mega corporation? Do we want to see fleet battles? Do we want to lead forces in mass combat and do tactics-based stuff? Do we want to lead squads? Do we want to fight eldritch menaces? Do we want to do full-on casting with magic and stuff up in the north? Do we want to just have a ship and explore, salvage? What do we want to do? That's the good question. I mean, I'm content so far with our Yulana Aldous going around doing her thing. But, I mean, on occasion, I want to do other stuff, I mean, it's not like I can't do other stuff. I can do other stuff whenever. We have a bot for that. I can just do the stuff whenever. But I mean, like, what do we want to do here? Because I do want to show off all the stuff, and I feel like we haven't yet shown off all the stuff, even with just Juliana Aldous. We haven't really delved into the casting or the hacking, but I am bound by rules and such. I'm always stuck with rules that I follow. I don't cheat at my own game. So, I feel like I can't, let me put it this way. I don't cheat at my own game. So, I can't just go and give Juliana Aldous 5 million credits to buy augments with. I can't give her 5 million credits to get hacking stuff or casting stuff. We have to train that stuff. It takes time, in-game time. We could pass in-game time, but there's things we could do to show stuff off before that. Like, I'm stuck by my own rules, I mean, like, there's nothing, yeah, I'm stuck by my own rules. But there's so much we can even do within that, with what we have so far. I suppose, let's make a plan. Juliana Aldous needs money. Let's take secondary contracts. What was it, 8 hours till we can take them? We'll take secondary contracts, gain some money, train our skills, buy some stuff, and just, I mean, this is an abandoned part of the city. Who are we going to anger? The gangs? Let's make allies with some gangs, help make our gang more powerful, make enemies of other gangs. Let's wreck some shit, Let's burn the city down. We're in enemy territory too. We're in enemy territory. So let's focus on that. Let's do that kind of thing. Let's go on a semi-crazy adventure. That's our target for Solo Sunday. We have our target. We've sort of just been preparing, figuring out what's going on. Let's go on an adventure. Let's find targets that are vital for the enemy government. Let's find gangs that we want to fight. Let's gather resources. Let's bring them to our forces. Let's do all that stuff. That's our goal. Yes. So we have a plan. Well, a loose outline of how to go about this. And that's what we'll do next time. Well, like day after tomorrow, next time. On Solo Sunday, we'll start kicking down doors and doing contracts and all that. And if things go south, enemies start showing up, we'll fight them too. We'll fight our way out of it. I mean, we're not really a hero. I mean, I don't mean that by like we're not heroic, we're evil. No. What I mean is, we have no special benefits. Admittedly, okay, we did give Yulena all this one special benefit. What is it? Just the fact that she's a caster, honestly. Casters are rare. She's tier 2, just like fully allowed. It's not like I've done anything special with that. But we don't have any of the super, not really cheaty, but like heroic action dice feats that let you regain action die or anything like that. So life is dangerous. I mean, our favored feat, but that's not really a special action die feat. So things are dangerous, but you know, sometimes you just gotta take risks for glory and money. Sure, we can play it safe, but let's not. From now on, let's play it a bit more dangerous. Okay, that's our plan. Thank you all for stopping by. I hope to see you next time. As next time we'll be playing the game and being riskier, taking contracts and all that good stuff. So, I'll see you next time.